Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, Episode 5, Thursday, August 2nd, 2018.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back to Episode 5. Today we are so excited to be talking about A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh and the Disney connections that have sprung from that.
Hey Courtney, so excited to do this. And I wanted to say a day without a friend is like a pot without a drop of honey inside. And that's how I feel about our friendship.
Oh, thank you, Emily. Very sweet. So as I said, we are talking about not only the novel Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne, but also the Disney film The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the many films that have sprung from it. But of course, we are doing that because now in theaters is Disney's Christopher Robin. So excited for this movie.
You did the research on this and we'll get to it, but how many Winnie the Pooh movies does this make now, or Pooh related?
Oh my gosh. I think there's been 9 direct-to-video films through Disney. 5 theatrical releases, I believe. There's a few in the 2000s, of course, the original, different TV series, which we'll get into. So there's going to be a lot to explore here. And the original book was published in 1926. So we're coming up on almost 100 years of Winnie the Pooh, just past 90, which is crazy.
Pooh's looking good for 90 years old. He can rival Mickey Mouse.
That's fair. Mickey is celebrating his 90th, so just a little older. But just really speaks to the longevity of those characters. So yes, that's why we're celebrating the new film, which we're both excited for. But like we said, a rich history. Emily, do you want to share some of your memories of Winnie the Pooh, connections, anything?
So I have a lot of memories of Winnie the Pooh. I think this kind of relates to our Golden Books, that it's just such a staple childhood character. Also, my grandmother loved pigs. So Piglet was always around. She loved Piglet. So he was always there. The books, the movies, bedtime stories. I saw him all the time in Barnes & Noble in the children's section. So he's just always been constantly there.
Yeah, he's on the walls in Barnes & Noble, right? In some of the children's sections, like the original illustrations.
Yeah, it's the original ones. And I was going to talk about that in my section about the history of Winnie the Pooh. But yeah, he's the wall art, and then it feeds into other characters, some Dr. Seuss ones I think are up there, or something else. But it's a nice seamless transition. But the main feature is usually the storybook corner, at least the one in my hometown. I think mine too. Yeah, the platform where they read stories to kids. So I just
Barnes and Nobles of the late 90s.
Oh yes.
It might still be there, but...
So I just remember it's my favorite store. I love Barnes & Noble. So I would just grab books and I would go sit in that corner. So I just remember always seeing Winnie the Pooh around. But then my more recent relationship with Winnie the Pooh came in my Disney College program. Back in our intro episode, I said I worked in entertainment. And on my first day, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger invited me to hang out in the Hundred Acre Wood and share some honey and bounce around with some friends, and had a really good time.
Oh, that's so special that you have that connection, within the parks, but also from childhood. I think, growing up in the early 90s, we were in, the middle of, peak Pooh, I believe.
For sure.
It was a lot of... TV shows and like toys everywhere. They really started merchandising it. So I think my strongest memory of Winnie the Pooh is actually the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the TV show that was on Disney Channel. We can get into that a little more when we go into like the Disney acquisition portion of it. But I just remember watching that show in the mornings on Disney Channel, and then of course as it came to the Disney parks, experiencing it. And I feel like Winnie the Pooh, the VHS for the Many Adventures, it was like the 70s film, but definitely one that I owned when it came out on home video. Just a comforting one to watch and put on, like wrapping yourself in a like warm blanket almost. Just really enjoyed those films as a kid. And then certainly it's carried on through adulthood with my love of Disney. I feel like it's a cornerstone within the Disney brand.
But it's so true. Winnie the Pooh, he's just as older than Mickey Mouse. But as a brand in Disney, there are places where Pooh is the character that people run to meet, sometimes before Mickey. Or when they say, what characters do you need to meet when you go to the parks? They say, I need to see Mickey and Pooh. So Pooh Bear is just as important, or almost as important, I think, to the Disney brand as Mickey Mouse is.
Yeah, I feel like it spanned generations. Like we said, like we were growing up when there was a lot of like television access, home video, those direct to VHS films. But even people before us certainly had the books, and then the original film by Disney. And then it carries on when we get into the television. Like there's still TV shows for kids with Pooh airing. Like that character just spans so long with all of his friends, and we continue to see it because now there's a new movie out about it. So that's, I think, one of the things that I really love about it is just how it's timeless. That's truly the way to describe it. The characters themselves, like their personalities, just span. I think there's a little bit of each character in all of us.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, timeless, I think, is the perfect way to describe Winnie the Pooh. The morals, the lessons, the humor, it just relates to everyone. It's very family friendly, and yeah, it transcends time for sure.
So let's go back in time to the history. So you're going to cover a little bit about just A.A. Milne and the general history pre-Disney acquisition. So tell me what you learned.
So as a history teacher, I got to cite my sources here. So I gathered lots of information from Smithsonian Magazine, from Time Magazine, from BBC. So I kind of double-checked a lot of this information in a couple different places. So basic A.A. Milne, he was born in 1882. He is native to London, England. Cambridge Trinity College is his alma mater, and he's always been a writer. From the beginning, as soon as he graduated, he's writing for literary magazines. The two that were mentioned were Granta and Punch. I'm not familiar with those, but he will have other things published in like Vanity Fair and other I guess more universal magazines of that 1920s, 30s era. Maybe Granta and Punch were more English, so we wouldn't
sound English.
Yeah, they would not be familiar to us here in the States. Became a playwright. One that he's most known for is Mr. Pym Passes By. I am not familiar with his plays, but the more research I'm doing, I now want to be. I want to look and see when was maybe the last time it's been theatrically produced.
Yeah, that does not ring a bell for me either.
And I think that one may have been, I forget if it was that or if it was one of his poems was an inspiration, but was turned into a silent film in 1921. So good enough of a playwright to have his plays turned into movies, and we do that a lot now too. But after World War I, that's where our story begins with Pooh. So he fights in World War I, and he's injured at the Battle of the Somme in 1916. And when he comes back, he has shell shock, which today we now diagnose as post-traumatic stress disorder. So living in the city was setting off a lot of that stress, that trauma, things backfiring, sounds like gunshots. So he moves his family to the countryside to kind of get away from that, but also spend some time with his son. And contrary to what you may see in lots of other films, things I'm noticing from biographers is that he did have a good relationship with his son. His parents were not super neglectful or were so high society that a nanny completely raised their son Christopher Robin, or Billy Moon, as they like to call him. But when he moved out there and spending time with his son, that's where he starts to take his son as inspiration. So he publishes a poem in Vanity Fair in 1923 called Vespers, and that is the first time we see Christopher Robin mentioned. And it's a line about Christopher Robin saying his prayers, but Pooh is not a character yet, but Mr. Edward Bear is present. So there's a time where Christopher Robin did not call his iconic bear Pooh. He was Mr. Edward Bear. And then I think there's that famous story, which is true, that they went to the London Zoo, and there was a bear on display that was very popular, and the bear's name was Winnie, and that's where the Winnie part comes in. Later, 1924, still building with Pooh dropping a little bit in different verses and poems and magazines. But 1924, there's a book, When We Were Young, and then Christmas Eve, 1925, in the London Evening News, there's a short story, The Wrong Sort of Bees, and that really features Pooh a little more strongly. So we're building up until 1926. We finally get Winnie the Pooh, a full-on book, which is what you and I read. All of these things from 1923 through the Winnie the Pooh collection had the illustrations by Ernest H. Shepard, which are beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Are you familiar with his drawings before just the book?
No, I'm not. I definitely recognize the pictures that appeared in the book. I feel like I've seen them printed in other places, probably on display. Those are what the Barnes & Noble thing that we were talking about,
yeah.
That display is based on the illustrations, but no other works for that illustrator.
I love his style. It's inviting, it's calming, it's not overly complicated, but it lends itself so well, I think, to children's stories.
Yeah, I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much. I'll let you continue on the actual history, but it felt relevant. I had watched, available on YouTube, was a Disney documentary called The Many Adventures of Winnie Pooh, the story behind the masterpiece. And I think it was just a DVD bonus feature that somebody uploaded to YouTube, which I'm thankful for. But I watched that in preparation of this, and they talked to, it's from the 90s, because some of the animators are still alive, like Ex Atencio and Ollie Johnson. And they were talking about how Walt was insistent that they kind of keep the charm of those specific illustrations because that's what the public recognized as Pooh. But then they needed to bring them into, like the animated Disney style. So they really did try to blend that. And I think you see that with the fact that the eyes within these films are just black dots. It's not like the animated eyes that Mickey had at the time, because it gives that doll-like function. And they said one of the challenges was that the pictures are flat, so they're just simple sketches, but they needed to bring them into this three-dimensional world. Not meaning that the film is a 3D film, but that, you're going to have to see them move on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So because the eyes can't shift, they had to turn their head to make them move, and that kind of kept the doll-like stuffed animal structure. So I liked how they kind of blended his art style, made it a Disney touch, but also drew on the fact that these are stuffed animals. They're Christopher Robin's toys that he goes to visit, where they're alive to him within the 100 Acre Wood. So sorry for that tangent, but
no, it's
jump right back in.
But that's what's also so popular with Pooh is just his shape. He's just so familiar, and he is a chubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff, and you just want to hug him. What's cool is, so getting to Pooh's modern thing, moving forward, I'll keep with the timeline, and I'll get to my other tangent in a moment. So 1926, Winnie the Pooh comes out. Within the first year in the UK, these are rough numbers. I was not able to corroborate these numbers with another source, but over 30,000 copies in the UK and over 150,000 in the United States within the first year. So very popular. And then by 1928, 2 years later, we have The House on Pooh Corner, which is the follow-up, and that's where we find Tigger and lots of the other familiar episodes and stories we know about Winnie the Pooh, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then, so When We Were Young from 1924 is also included in that, and then Now We Are Six is the final installation, which I think is Christopher Robin growing up and leaving that childhood behind a little bit, which is sad. We all have, it's very Toy Story, kind of sad. Toy Story 3 right there.
Well, and I feel like that's often a theme in the Pooh stories.
That's true.
Like, I feel like we've seen Christopher Robin go to school at least like 3 times within the animated features.
Well, it is summer, so he goes to 100 Acre Wood on summer break. Moving forward, we're almost to Disney acquiring some rights. So after this, around 1930, so not very long after the Winnie the Pooh collection has been around, they sell some rights, not all the rights, but marketing and merchandising and other rights to Stephen Selinger. I wrote the name pretty sloppily in my notes. I'm sorry. He got a license from Milne to do marketing and merchandising, and he is the one that puts the iconic red shirt on Winnie the Pooh. So
okay, I was curious about that because in the illustrations, like none of them really have clothes. I like to refer to it as Pooh's crop top.
Pooh's crop top, very popular at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party by lots of Disney bounders. Or in the Pooh red crop top with some yellow shorts. Very easy Disney bound costume right there if you're trying to bound. Something I found that was kind of a fun fact. So if you look at the original Winnie the Pooh toy, like that Christopher Robin's Pooh Bear, it looks like a very quintessential teddy bear. And actually you can see them and find pictures of them online everywhere. They're at the New York Public Library, which I find interesting that they're not in England. But okay. So Pooh's shape is a combination of the inspiration of Christopher Robin's Mr. Edward Bear, which becomes Winnie the Pooh, but also Ernest Shepard's son's bear, Growler. Okay. So I always wondered about that because I've seen the pictures of the original toys, and I'm like, that doesn't look like Pooh.
Oh my god, the piglet. The piglet's kind of scary.
I mean, they're all pretty beat up. They're they are probably 100 years old now. But they're very well loved. I shouldn't say they're beat up. They're well loved. But shape-wise, like when I look at the toys and then I look at Ernest's drawings, Piglet looks very similar with like that nose. Owl, Rabbit, Kanga look very similar, but Pooh is not quite the same. But that's because he pulled some inspiration elsewhere.
From my understanding, Rabbit wasn't a toy, right? Like, Rabbit is supposed to be...
Oh, like an actual
rabbit. Because he looks very realistic in the Ernest Shepard illustrations, but then much more cartoony, of course, in the Disney film.
Wow.
But then I noticed in Christopher Robin trailer, Owl and Rabbit definitely look like a real owl and rabbit, like they do in these illustrations. But, like, of course, Kanga and Eeyore and Tigger all look like the toys. So I think I had seen a picture of the original toys, and it's Tigger, Piglet, Eeyore, and Kanga.
Roo and Pooh.
Are the originals.
Maybe Roo was added, but there was definitely a kangaroo in there. Although now that you say that Rabbit, because looking at some of the other illustrations, and in the book they talk about Rabbit's relations, but his relations aren't just rabbits, they're like mice and
they're like critters.
So that is making so much more sense. But also going back to what you said about the cartoons and the eyes, Owl and Rabbit have the white in their eyes.
You're right. Oh, we broke through.
We figured it out. It only took us 26 years of our lives to figure that out. But
mind blown.
But yeah, so
wow,
Owl and Rabbit are actually, and Disney added Gopher. I'm sure you'll talk about that. But Gopher is not a toy either.
We will talk about Gopher.
Okay, so that's how you know, folks, when you watch Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Not in the book.
I love that. So yeah, folks, when you watch Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh or any other Pooh stories, look, the eyes will tell you who is a toy and who is not. Awesome. So I think that leads us up to you. Really, Pooh has always had a comforting presence, particularly in English lore. There's lots of, every site that I read mentioned this, that veterans in World War I going through post-traumatic stress, but also those fighting World War II really looked at Winnie the Pooh as like what they're fighting for. The story is very English. And I think you and I talked about that as we were reading it. We were sending things back and forth. We're like, this is a very sophisticated language for a children's book.
Yeah.
But given the time, given the place, I think that's part of it. So it's very English in its morality and its humor in the woods, living in a cottage type thing or having tree houses. I don't know. But they all referenced that it was very English, the setting, the feel of it. So a lot of people found a lot of comfort in Winnie the Pooh during the wartime, and probably people in the United States as well.
Including Walt's daughters. How about that for a segue, Emily?
There we go.
This is a very similar story to Walt's daughter's love of Mary Poppins and that acquisition. So if anyone's familiar with Saving Mr. Banks or the history behind Mary Poppins, I definitely saw some parallels there as I was doing my own research. And that was that his daughters loved the books. They'd read them before bed, and, he would see them, enjoy them. I don't think quite like Mary Poppins, he had promised to make it a film, but he saw the value in it. And I read that he had sought to acquire the rights as early as 1937, which is also very similar to Mary Poppins, really trying early on. And it wasn't until 1961 that he was able to do so. So the first thing that they did was the short Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, which was released in 1966. Of course, Walt passed very shortly thereafter, but some of these were in production. So I think there's a few things that are thrown around as, this is one of the last things that Walt touched before he passed away. But this definitely falls within that bucket.
I feel like there's so many movies that claim that title or attractions, one of the last things he touched. Well, lots of things he touched, put on a shelf, brought back out.
Yes. Well, he did oversee at least the very first short and kind of mapped out the others, which were in 1968, The Blustery Day, and then 1974, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. And then in 1977, they edited them all together for what we know as The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which is, I think, the Disney film that most people associate with Winnie the Pooh. And I actually didn't realize that they were shorts that were edited until I was listening to another podcast, Diz Order. Highly recommend them. They're going through every Disney animated film in order, and I really enjoyed
I'm
their
actually
Winnie the
following
Pooh
them through that journey.
episode.
I'm watching them as we go as well.
Oh, fun.
It's a great podcast.
Yeah, so Winnie the Pooh, they were like, oh yeah, it was a short first. And I was like, wait, what? And then my boyfriend was like, you didn't know that? And I was like, look, the parks are my Disney nerd history strong point, not as much on the films. But, I just, as a kid, I had it on VHS. That's what I popped in the VCR and I watched. So to me, it was a cohesive narrative. But when you think about it, it is these little segments kind of wrapped together by the narrator and the book motif. And as you mentioned, Gopher was added. And there's that funny little line where he pops up and he's like, well, I'm not in the book, but I can help. It's a little double entendre because, he's there to help Winnie the Pooh get out of the hole. And he's saying he's not in the phone book, for them to call for help. But they're acknowledging I'm not in the Winnie the Pooh book. And in the documentary I was watching, they had said that Winnie the Pooh didn't have as big of an American audience, which I found a little contradictory because Walt's daughters were enjoying it. But anyway, they wanted to kind of put more of an American character in there, add a little bit of humor. But they recognize that they're what they call Pooh-philes, people, as you said, within England who are very devoted and protective of their Winnie the Pooh character. So that was their way of acknowledging okay, we know that we did this and we threw this character in here for laughs and everything. So he was not part of it, but our other friends, Tigger, Eeyore, Pooh, of course, all based on A.A. Milne's book.
Is he the only character added? I don't remember if there were others.
Within the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, I believe so. We don't meet anyone else. Of course, as I get into it, there's many other movies like Pooh's Heffalump movie, and we add some of those characters, and I'm sure other people popped up within the show, but that core group, aside from Gopher, is original to the books. So Disney really continued to expand that brand over the past 30 years when they created the Disney Channel, which is celebrating its 35th anniversary this year. One of the original shows was called Welcome to Pooh Corner, and that aired from 1983 to 1986. And this featured live action characters. Now, I don't remember this one, but my boyfriend's a little older and he does remember, and we actually had an argument about which had the better theme song, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which I love, and Welcome to Pooh Corner.
New Adventures is everything.
Yes. Well, the Welcome to Pooh Corner one is basically just the opening of Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh with the lyrics changed. It's like the same tune, and that's like, Welcome to Pooh Corner. But we get like some jazzy New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh going on. Anyway, it is really cute. I did watch it on YouTube, and it kind of reminds me of like a Barney style, not with any real life kids, but, you know, life-size characters, and a little bit of puppetry for Roo going on. But that was brand new to the new Disney Channel. And then shortly followed by New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which originally aired from 1988 to 1991, but we obviously watched well into its reruns on Disney Channel, and I believe probably on ABC when they would do those cartoons in the morning. And that was just like a 30-minute episode with all of Winnie the Pooh's new adventures through the 100 Acre Wood.
And I think some of them were on VHS tape, because I remember choosing them sometimes as like my bedtime movie instead of story. Sometimes I asked for like a 30-minute movie, and it would either be Winnie the Pooh or a sing-along song video.
Okay, that's what I thought too, because I did look at direct-to-DVD or direct-to-video films, which I'll get into, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I just like watched some episodes of New Adventures of Winnie.
I totally remember that as well. Maybe not all of them were put on VHS, but I feel like there was one or two out there. Definitely the holiday specials.
I remember watching it on TV as well. Like, it was on really early in the morning, I feel like, and I was like the kid up at 6 a.m. watching Pooh Bear. Followed by Book of Pooh, which was on Playhouse Disney from 2001 to 2003. I don't remember this as much because I feel like that's as we kind of aged out of Playhouse Disney, but that was more akin to Welcome to Pooh Corner in that they were puppets and it was kind of live action in that regard. And the last Winnie the Pooh themed television series Disney did was My Friends Tigger and Pooh, which was animated and on air on Playhouse Disney from 2007 to 2010 as it transitioned into what's now known as Disney Junior. And that was just Tigger and Pooh, I believe. And they have a friend named Darby, who's a little girl. It's not Christopher Robin. So I thought that was an interesting take where, like, you know, we heavily associate these characters with Christopher Robin, but they're like, nope, it's a girl instead. So I'd love to check out more on that one. But as I said, between 1997 and 2010, there were 9 direct-to-video films.
Wow.
Definitely the holiday special, as you mentioned. But the one that stands out the most to me was Winnie the Pooh, The Search for Christopher Robin. That one came out in 1997. I remember getting that for Christmas or my birthday. And fun fact, it's also currently on Netflix if you want to revisit it. But it's what I referenced earlier where Christopher Robin goes off to school and they're like, where did he go? And because Christopher Robin doesn't know how to spell, they think he went off to like a Skull Rock or something.
Oh my goodness, that's classic.
Trouble, which is also very similar to the plot of the 2011 Winnie the Pooh film. I think there's like a misunderstanding where he's like, be back soon, but they think it's the Baxen and it's a monster. So hopefully as Christopher Robin keeps going to school, he learns to spell, because it is quite a difficult point for some of our 100 Acre Wood friends. But other theatrical releases in the early 2000s, there were quite a few. There was the Tigger movie in 2000, Piglet's Big Movie in 2003, and Pooh's Heffalump movie in 2005, and of course the 2011 that I just referenced. So long time brand spanning generations there with the Disney portion. Now in that early 2000s time frame, Disney fully bought the rights to Winnie the Pooh. Found that New York Times article that said they were purchased for $350 million, which was the biggest literary contract at that time. And the copyright is good until 2026, which I thought was interesting because that's like the 100th anniversary of Pooh. I'm sure it's something they'll renew But I was like, oh man, we only have like less than 10 years left on this contract. I guess, 25-year contract at that time. Time is ticking. But I did read within that Christopher Robin Milne had distanced himself and sold his share of the royalties before he passed away in 1996. But his daughter, so A. Milne's granddaughter, did receive $44 million of that. So still a little nod to the family, but as you had said, it had kind of like become a way in its own business as early as the 30s.
That's crazy.
At that time.
Yeah, and it says, I'm looking at that article that you referenced, and it says since 1960s, Disney had been paying twice the royalty. So I wonder how much Disney in its span has paid to have Winnie the Pooh.
Well, I'm sure whatever they've paid, they've made it back in all of those different releases. That's kind of Disney's acquisition starts in the 60s, goes up to the official purchase in 2001, and a plethora of different things occurred in that time. And we'll get to the parks later, but why don't we dive into the source material before we get back on that Disney track? So we did read, because this is a book podcast, we read A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, which is the third within that collection. So had you read this book before?
Parts of it. I think I read it cover to cover right before my college program, because I remember getting the book more recently. The copy I have is a more recent edition. It's the Winnie the Pooh, the collection, and they actually took the book, but also Shepard's illustrations, and they colored them. So it's really beautiful. It's a hardcover book with really like glossy pages. I don't know why I got it. Maybe my mom gave it to me at Christmas. She knows I like collecting these kinds of books and children's stories. So I think recently, other than this week when I read it, but then I think 3 years ago I dove into it. But it's also been a popular one in my family to give as baby shower gifts. So like when people ask for, bring a book instead of a card, other than the little engine that could, sometimes we reach for, let's give them the Winnie the Pooh collection, because that's one that you can read.
That's a nice one.
You kind of get tired of Goodnight Moon when you're 8 years old, but you might not get tired of Winnie the Pooh. So
that's fair.
I've read it like those times when we've picked it up, but most recently I think I really truly read it cover to cover.
I had never read it. I mean, I feel like I was aware that it was a book. I mean, it's very clearly book inspired within the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Like, they're literally within the pages. It's like the illustrations coming to life, and it's very meta. So I was always aware of the source material, but I was really excited to sit down and read this because I hadn't done so. And my copy is not as nice as yours. I went to the library, and mine is from 1988.
But you supported the local library, and that's what matters.
I did indeed. This is my first time getting a library book for our podcast, so that was exciting.
So being new to Winnie the Pooh literature-wise, I'm sure we'll dive into talking about the book, but I really want to ask you this question. How surprised were you at the similarities between New Adventures, like the movie and the book, or the differences?
I think I was more surprised at the differences, because being aware of the source material, I fully expected, like, it's going to be a blustery day, or he's going to go into the honey tree. But then I was getting to the end of the book, and I was like, wait, where's Tigger? Why isn't Tigger in here? And then I realized he appears in Welcome to Pooh Corner. So he's not even in this book. So I feel like both books are the source material. But it was fun to read some of the stories that weren't in the film, in addition to those familiar ones of him disguising himself as a little black rain cloud to get the honey.
Yeah, there's a lot of... I will say, though, that Disney really kept true to the story. So even though they added those elements, like how Gopher is part of the tale of how you pull Pooh out of Rabbit's hole when he gets stuck, they really kept true to this is how Pooh got stuck. And Rabbit did decorate Pooh's hind legs and his butt while he was stuck in the hole. So they really kept true to it. They only embellished in few places.
Some of the language was verbatim, like the conversation
Yes.
that he has going into Rabbit's Hole, and he's like, is anyone home? No. Are you sure? No. Well, it sounds like someone's in there. I mean, that was me paraphrasing it, but the language is very verbatim to their cartoon in places.
That, I think, was one of my, talking about the language, was one of the big observations I had about this book. It kind of strikes me, I was like, this is a children's book, because children's books, or at least more modern day ones, tend to be simpler language that you're hoping your child eventually will read it to you. Like, you read it together and eventually they read it to you. But I do not see a 6-year-old reading Winnie the Pooh. The way it's phrased out in the first chapter where we meet Pooh, and it's A.A. Milne talking to his son, and then it seamlessly turns into telling the stories. I think this is a book that is meant for parents to sit and read their kid.
I 100% agree on that, because of the language, and it has that quality, because there's not really a plot to the book.
Right.
I mean, some things are referenced a little bit in like subsequent chapters, but
Very episodic.
it really is a type of book where you could sit down, read this story, and be like, all right, time for bed, and then read the next one. When I was reading it, maybe it was the illustrations, but also possibly the language. When I was really little, probably like 6 or 7, my dad read Stuart Little to me as a kid each night. And I feel like Stuart Little was kind of episodic in that same way. Whereas like I went to my dad's house on the weekend, so it wasn't like, oh, I forgot what happened the last time he read me this chapter. It was just like, okay, it's picking back up in a new regard. So stylistically, I feel like E.B. White was probably a contemporary of A. Milne around the same time, but it really reminded me of that.
And I think the book's layout is also what made it so easy for Disney to turn it into shorts and then piece those shorts together, because it's exactly how the book is laid out, where from chapter to chapter they make small references, but not a lot that you need to read the previous one. But it lends itself so well to being shorts.
Yeah, did you have a favorite adventure within here?
I really wanted some of the other ones that aren't in the movie to be my favorite, but nostalgia-wise, I love the little black rain cloud. I love when Christopher Robin is under him and goes, tut tut, looks like rain, tut tut, looks like rain. It's just, I just love the innocence and the fun of it so much.
I'm a little black rain cloud.
Oh, it's so cute. Oh, that's another observation. So from the movie, the song that he sings, I'm just a little black rain cloud, da, 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 da. That's not A.A. Milne. And he has so many poems and so many songs in here that Pooh sings, but they're not in the book or not in the movie.
Right. They're referred to in the book as songs, and they're in the places where the songs in the movie would occur, but I guess they're like, we have the Sherman Brothers, we're gonna have them write their own song. And in the documentary I watched, they did talk about writing their songs, that Walt wanted whimsical and easily singable, but they didn't acknowledge the fact that there were actually songs, quote, within the book. And I was like, interesting that they decided to make it their own thing, because they are little poems and they're stylistically similar, but
and they were really cute and fun to read. And hearing Winnie the Pooh's voice from Disney is so iconic, that I was reading it and hearing it in Pooh's voice, and I was just like, oh, this is cute. But I was like, oh, where's my little black rain cloud song? But you're right, the Sherman Brothers. So if you ever want to check out A.A. Milne's also poetry writing style, don't skip over those when you read the book. Like, I know sometimes maybe when you read chapter books and they have like the bard comes out and sings a song, get it right back to the narrative. Don't skip his poems. They're so cute. They're so fun. And really give Pooh his character. So do not skip the poems and the little silly songs that Milne writes out. He put the time in and effort, so we should take the time to read them.
And you mentioned this one about the honey tree. What stuck out to me was the way the illustrations in the book are laid out. Like they took that in the film. So on one of the pages, it's like half the page is an illustration of Winnie the Pooh climbing the tree, and then the text is like right justified, and it's one line. It says he, next line, climbed, and he, like one word per line. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed and sang a little song too. And I was watching the film after I read this, and that's what's in the movie. I was like, oh my gosh, they lifted that exactly from the page itself. So I really liked how it harkens back to that. So my favorite is actually the chapter in which Eeyore has a birthday and gets 2 presents, and that one is not in the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Now, I am just very partial to Eeyore, and I'm sure we'll discuss our favorite characters shortly. But I thought this was very sweet. It's Eeyore's birthday, and, like, you know, he's being Eeyore, like, good morning, if it is a good morning, which I doubt. But Pooh gets him a present, and he's going to give him honey, but of course, as Pooh does, he eats all of the honey, and he's like, all right, well, I can just give him this pot. He can put stuff in it. And then Piglet decides to give him a balloon, but the balloon pops, and, like, Piglet's, you know, very like, oh, I'm so sorry, but here it is.
It's
and then
so Piglet.
They kind of connect, and they're like, oh, well, like, you can put the balloon in the pot. And I just love that Eeyore just accepts that, because he says, I'm very glad, said Piglet happily, that I thought of giving you something to put in a useful pot. But Eeyore wasn't listening. He was taking the balloon out and putting it back again, as happy as he could be. And I just picture Eeyore sitting there, taking the balloon out, putting it back in, taking the balloon out, putting back in. I was like, that's just sweet. Like, you don't really see a lot of, like, happy, content moments for Eeyore. So I was like, aw, he had a happy birthday.
I love Eeyore, and I think this book, touches on a lot of things. I think that's where some of A. Milne's, like, PTSD comes out a little bit. Not so much, like, traumatic, but people have bad days. And it teaches kids that doing some nice things can brighten someone's day, or that you're going to encounter people who are not always happy all the time. And that's okay. They can still be your friend.
Oh my gosh.
They're not mean.
Okay, that's what I wanted to touch on. We can just go into our favorite characters. So
Do it.
I of course love Pooh Bear because, you know,
It's
just his
Pooh.
simple nature. It's Pooh, like you said. Like, he's just so sweet. You can't not like him. But my 2 favorites are actually Eeyore and Piglet, because I see a lot of myself.
I was going to talk about Piglet.
I'm an anxious person, so, like, anytime he's like a little worrywart, I'm like, it me. But what you were just saying about Eeyore warms my heart, because, like, I don't want to get, like, too dark, but, like, I've experienced depression and have gone through that. But what I love about this book, I'm like, try not to cry, is that, like you said, they are his friends. Like, yes, Eeyore has his gloomy moments, but nobody's annoyed by Eeyore because of that. Like, they are so accepting of him, and just, he's their friend. He's part of the gang no matter what kind of mood he's in, even if it's consistently not the best one. They're just looking not to change him or be like, oh, you have to be happy, but they think of him. They give him this birthday present, or they look out for him and replace his tail. So just, I see some of myself in those 2 characters, and that's why I love them both so much.
I agree. I was going to say Piglet is my favorite. Again, Pooh is Pooh. You gotta love Pooh. But I just always love Piglet, mostly because he's the smallest. And listener, you can't see me in a podcast, but I am only 5 feet tall. So I'm always on the shorter end of life and can't reach things and ask people for help. So I always saw that with Pooh, or with Piglet, especially in the cartoons. I think you see that more, where he's like jumping for things to reach things. I'm like, oh, that's me. But I totally agree I'm a worrywart. I panic about everything, or I'm like, or I'd be like him with the birthday present, like, oh, I got this perfect birthday present, but now I don't know if he's going to like it because it didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to. I'm like, oh, Piglet, that's me. And you're so innocent and cute. But he's also really smart. Like, Piglet's like, I didn't really notice it so much when I watch him in the films, but some of the comments he makes in Winnie the Pooh, like, Owl is definitely smart, but of the stuffed animals, I think Piglet he catches on. He doesn't like, oh, I know this thing. He's just like, well, Pooh, maybe it's just someone else's
He thinks
footprints.
critically.
Yes, and I love that about him.
Speaking of like smarts, they often refer to Pooh as a bear of very little brain, but I kind of picked up on in this book that like Pooh ends up solving quite a few problems. Like he finds, quote, the North Pole, or he makes the umbrella into a boat, and I kind of got a Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz vibe where like he doesn't think he's smart, but he's smarter than he thinks.
Oh, I'm gonna bring that up later. Actually,
that good quote.
favorite quote. But yeah, so I think Eeyore and Piglet are like what you said. They're just very important characters that I don't think it's impressive to me that they are in children's literature in 1926. People who are worrisome, people who are sad. It's definitely a product of its time and of A.A. Milne's experiences. But I'm really happy that they're showcased.
I want to read Welcome to Pooh Corner now because, as I said, we didn't get to meet Tigger in this book, and I'm very curious how Tigger in the book compares to Tigger in the film, because I feel like Tigger is lot of people's favorite character just because he's bouncy, flouncy, bouncy, fun.
So maybe we need to do like an episode 5.2.
When Christopher Robin comes back on DVD, we'll talk about Christopher Robin and we'll follow up with Pooh Corner.
But yeah, and it's interesting because like we were talking about with the VHS and Many Adventures, it is weird I'm curious why Disney pick and chose what stories they did, because like the Blustery Day is from Pooh Corner, but that's in Many Adventures. But the flood from the Rainy Day is from Winnie the Pooh, but that's how they integrated Tigger. So they made some cute little changes. So you're right. I do want to see it'd be interesting to see how Tigger does actually get introduced. Because I know him as coming in when Pooh is scared of Heffalumps and Woozles and then the rain comes. But
and they kind of referenced Heffalumps and Woozles, but I want to know if like that segment is in I keep calling it Welcome to Pooh Corner because that's the TV show.
It's in Many Adventures. That's where we get the Heffalumps and Woozles.
Right. No, I meant which book it's in.
Oh, it's in. They mention Heffalumps and
here,
Woozles,
but I'm like, but do we get that like nightmare fuel scene in the book, or was that just like Disney's like, we're jumping off here and we're going down the Heffalump and Woozle?
Oh, true, because that is where he also meets Tigger. Is he thinks Tigger is a Woozle or something.
Steal honey.
All right, so listeners, we need to do some research and read House on Pooh Corner to find out how Tigger connected to the Heffalumps and Woozles like he is in the Many Adventures movie.
But this was the appropriate starting point for sure, and I'm glad that we read it. So is there anything else you want to talk about with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh and the Winnie the Pooh novel, or do you want to jump into the parks?
I can end with some history here with the outcome of the novel. Obviously, it was very, very popular, but people might also be familiar with the movie Goodbye, Christopher Robin, which came out, I think, only 2 or 3 years ago.
I'm pretty sure,
but it focused,
2015.
Yeah, it focused on the boy Christopher Robin and A.A. Milne writing this. So when I saw Disney was releasing Ewan McGregor, Christopher Robin, I was really confused. I was like, but they already made that movie. Goodbye, Christopher Robin is not Disney. I learned that in the last 2 years. That was not Disney. And that was more on A.A. Milne's side about the writing. So Christopher Robin did love being a child celebrity at the time. I got that from the biographer for A.A. Milne. I think it was for A.A. Milne. Hang on, I have it here. The biographer, yes, Anne Thwaite. She was biographer for A.A. Milne. She says, at the time, Christopher Robin did love being a celebrity, but as he would grow up and go to boarding school and those later experiences and would get tormented for it and constantly asked about his father and the stories, he kind of grew to not love it. But he had his reconciliation with it, I think, when he got older, and thankfully so, because we still have Pooh today, and it came out pretty well.
His legacy endures. So, of course, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is one of the most iconic Disney features, and we have rides in the parks directly named after that, but also some other pieces within the park that draw from this literary realm. So the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is in nearly every Disney park. It is not in Disneyland Paris, unfortunately, but it is in Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Shanghai Disney Resort, and Hong Kong Disneyland. And we'll get to Japan's variation in a moment. But I just want to talk about this ride because what I love about it is that you go into the book, at least in the Walt Disney World one, you physically enter the book. There's letters falling off into the rain in that rainy
and
scene.
Scenes are framed by pages.
Yes.
And there's cutouts to rip through for you to go through the book.
The Disneyland
so it's very
one,
meta with the movie.
I don't think the Disneyland one is as meta. Forgive me if I got that wrong, but I've only been to Disneyland twice. The Disneyland
that's more
one,
than me.
Is in...
That's 2 times more than me.
Sorry. It is in Critter Country, which is kind of off of Frontierland, whereas Walt Disney World's is in Fantasyland. So like in Fantasyland, you get that book realm and you ride in like the honey pots, but in Disneyland you ride in like a honeycomb or a beehive.
Oh, that makes so much sense with the geography.
I feel like it doesn't have the book element. It's more like you're in Critter Country, so you're in the 100 Acre Wood already. But very similar scenes. The Heffalumps and Woozles one, like drawing from the source material of the film. But holy fluff and stuff, we need to talk about Pooh's Honey Hunt in Japan. We both watched a video of it today on YouTube. I had heard of it, but never really looked into it. But
it's incredible.
Yes, it is the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the ride, on steroids. So like Walt Disney World, you ride in a honey pot, but it's trackless. So like the honey pots can go around each other. You're not fixated on one path. And there's projection mapping and screens, but also just really impressive animatronics. I was blown away.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. And I liked watching the film. It's not necessarily a dark ride. Like if you looked up in the sky, there was like a painted sky and there was lighting. So it wasn't just like a black ceiling, like drop ceiling that's just supposed to be like fade into the background. Like, it's like, oh,
no
it's a day. Right. It's like, oh, this scene's in the daylight and there was a blue sky all over the ceiling and soft lighting like glow from the sun. It's, oh my gosh, it's incredible. And the animatronics are so cool.
Way beyond ours. I'm like, I'm about to book a trip to Japan. I really do.
Yeah, I think
there.
The ones in the Magic Kingdom, they're like statues that just like
they're more
move.
Static. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these were just like Pooh flew on a balloon halfway through the ride scene. So like, he's still going. So definitely
it's a mighty balloon.
Check that out on YouTube. Ride-wise, Shanghai also has Winnie the Pooh Honey Pot Spin, which is instead of our Mad Tea Party teacup spin ride, it's that. I don't know how true this is, but I feel like I read this when Shanghai came out. The whole tagline was distinctly Disney, authentically Chinese, and they were very sensitive to the Chinese culture. And like tea is so respective over there. They're like, we're not going to put teacups for people to ride in. So like, let's do Pooh honey pots. And it looked really fun. You know, it's your classic spinner type ride, but with a fun theme to it. So of course you can ride and join these friends on their adventures, but you can also meet your favorite friends. I know that was your realm. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yes. So you can meet Winnie the Pooh characters in quite a few places. Most notably, I can speak to Disney World. I've never been to Disneyland or other Disney places. I'll get there. It's on my bucket list. It'll happen. But in Magic Kingdom, you can meet them right next to the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh ride. And it's such a cute meet and greet location. I love that there's so much play space. Like that's where Piglet's tree is. So you can visit Piglet's house, I think, as you walk through it. Or it's like right next to the play area that goes with the ride. So it feeds very seamlessly. The line's really never, it's long sometimes, but it's constantly moving. So it's a good place to meet them. Don't get discouraged by seeing a lot of people in front.
Now, it's usually Tigger and Pooh, but I will say,
yes,
one day I walked by and it was Pooh and Rabbit, and I about lost my mind.
Rabbit is the elusive Pooh character.
It's Rabbit. And I was like freaking out. I was like, it's Rabbit. And my boyfriend's like, do you want to meet him? But the line was wrong. And I was like, no, we have to get to our fast pass. But I just like kept saying for like 10 minutes after, I was like, Rabbit was there. You never see Rabbit. So I regret not stopping.
Rabbit likes to hide and work on his garden a lot. And it's very hard for him to, wash his hands and be okay with hugging strangers.
That's fair.
So typically, but yes, it's usually Pooh and Tigger. I have seen Piglet occasionally there in that location as well.
Now you can find 4 of them at a dining location, right?
Yes, Crystal Palace. So that is also, so Pooh takes a break sometimes from meeting in the 100 Acre Wood and hops over with Tigger, Eeyore, and Piglet joins them as well for some dining time on the other side of the park.
For Friendship Celebration Day.
The Pooh Raid.
Is that what they call it? No way.
It's called the Pooh Raid. I'm not even joking.
Love it. I just know there's the banner that's Friendship Celebration Day. This has inspired me. I want to go back there because my boyfriend has never been, and I haven't been since my college program. One of my coworkers at Space Mountain got engaged, and we're like, oh, let's go do brunch at Crystal Palace because we can. So it's been 4 years for me.
It works really well in that location, given that it's a British fairy tale or not even fairy tale, a British story that they fit in that Victorian looking setting of Crystal Palace. And it's really fun, very kid friendly. I highly, highly encourage that if your son or daughter, niece, nephew, brother, sister loves Winnie the Pooh, that is the best place to meet all of them. Give yourself an hour and a half. It's buffet style, but you get to meet 4 characters. And it's so much fun. Pooh and Piglet have invited me a few times on their parade. It's a good time.
Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, Eeyore, right? But you might be lucky and one day see Rabbit because sometimes he just
Rabbit
appears.
is elusive, but he may show up. And it's such a cute location. They have the little topiaries inside of the 4 characters, so that's a fun place also. I think they'll let you go in just to take pictures. So if you're want to take a really cute Winnie the Pooh picture, go inside Crystal Palace to the lobby area where you check in, and there's this topiary. It's supposed to be a water fountain, but it's a topiary of the 4 characters that you can meet in there. And really cute.
Those are the 4 characters that you can meet at Halloween, right?
Yes.
And what's fun at Halloween is they're in their Halloween costumes.
Okay, you and I met them when I was on my program. I went with you to a Halloween party. We should post that picture of us meeting the 4 of them. I look really weird in that picture because they didn't tell me when we took it, so I'm talking in it. But they're, oh my god, Piglet is just so cute. They're all so cute.
So they're in their Halloween costumes, and Eeyore is a clown, which is so cute. Pooh is a bumblebee. Tigger is a pirate. And Piglet, I think, is the cutest, even though, I'm torn between Piglet and Eeyore, because Piglet is just the cutest butterfly, and Eeyore makes an amazing clown. So those are the main meet and greets. There was one that went away at Epcot, which is sad. I really liked it. It was in the back of the UK pavilion, never very crowded, and it was Christopher Robin's room. And the room is still intact, but they don't still have meet and greets there. But if you're in the UK gift shop and go all the way to the back, you can peek in. And what I thought was very interesting, I was there 2 weekends ago, and we were actually doing the new KidCot Fun Stop thing. And we peeked in, and the new plushies, the stuffed animals that were released for the Christopher Robin film, were sitting on Christopher Robin's bed. And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if we could meet some of his friends there for the film?
That's so weird to me that Pooh and Tigger would stay exclusively in the Magic Kingdom when you can meet Alice, you can meet Mary Poppins. It makes so much sense to have them there. I don't know why they would take those away, because there's
maybe they'll come visit.
Bit of character. Yeah, there's a good bit of character meet and greets in the World Showcase, but not so many that I think younger kids really love.
Well, and indoor,
there's princesses, too. But yes, and it's indoor. That was so great.
There's not many indoor meet and greets at Epcot aside from character spot. I feel like within World Showcase, most of them are outside.
Anna and Elsa is the only other one I can think of.
I feel like I saw Mulan inside once, but I don't know if that's because it was raining. But anyway, yeah, I hope they bring that back just because the room is still intact and it was really thematically just like a nice spot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
For a picture. But you did mention Disneyland. I will say the character meeting experience is very organic in Disneyland. When we went in 2016, we were walking through Critter Country, just like towards the back to get a Splash Mountain Fast Pass, and out walks Tigger, Eeyore, and Pooh. So they just walk around and interact with you versus the queue system over here. So that was fun to see them in their element. Kind of feels like you're in the Hundred
Acre Wood. But you can find Pooh everywhere in the parks, from those meet and greets, the rides. There's that playground in front of the ride in Walt Disney World.
We didn't really touch on that. That one's really cute. It has
cute.
Eeyore's little stick house, and like you can go sit in his house, and you can go into Pooh's little thoughtful spot and house there.
Mm-hmm.
I will, for any of you trivia people, there are 2 Disney Parks nods within Winnie the Pooh, the Many Adventures attraction. Do you know them, Emily?
I know that there is a picture of Owl getting the deed to his house from Mr. Toad, because the Magic Kingdom attraction, and I remember when that happened, it was a big uproar when Mr. Toad went away.
Still exists in all of its 1990s geosites glory. If you Google Save Mr. Toad, the website is still out there. So yes, Mr. Toad was a very popular ride at Magic Kingdom. It still exists in Disneyland, but they did remove it in 1998 or so to open the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh ride. So it's sad that we lost Toad, but I do think that's a nice homage to the attraction with, like you said, it's Al getting the deed from Mr. Toad, kind of like handing over the building. And also, if you look when you're in Al's house, to the right on the ground, there's a picture of Pooh and Mole from The Wind in the Willows.
Oh, and that kind of works too, because they are woodland creatures that you would very likely, a toad and a mole would very likely be in a forest.
They're also from books, which I'm sure we'll cover that one at one point. And the other is the Pooh's Thoughtful Spot. That playground is now kind of embedded into the queue as entertainment while you're waiting. But parts of the playground used to be across from Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which is now where Mine Train is. So when Seven Dwarfs Mine Train opened, they moved the playground over. But previously, what was there even before that was the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea attraction, which has the Nautilus, that iconic submarine, and that they filled in the lagoon and put that playground there eventually years later, like after Ariel's Grotto and all of that. And if you go inside the house and you look above the door frame, kind of notched into the wood, and it's like a little bit of a greenish color, is an outline of the Nautilus submarine.
Oh my gosh, I've never seen that.
I will take you there when you come visit and show you.
That is so cool. I like when Disney does little nods and homages to things. It gives us who miss those attractions and are nostalgia people, it gives us that comfort, that closure.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think we've kind of reached the point of everything leading up to Christopher Robin. So neither of us have seen the film because it released in theaters at 7 p.m. this evening. I am going tomorrow. I'm taking my dad for his birthday. Happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, that's fun.
We're going at Disney Springs at 9:45 p.m. So I'm very excited. I cannot wait. I'm sure you'll see it this weekend as well.
Yes, I plan to see it before the weekend is out.
But let's kind of give some thoughts on it if you want.
So I am curious, and that's why I brought up earlier the how Christopher Robin took the book and his mini celebrity, because I'm curious of how they're going to play off of that. Because from the trailer, we are picking up with Christopher Robin as an adult with his children, and it kind of seems like he's going through his own family struggles of not spending a lot of time with his kids because he's super career driven. And Pooh and Piglet and the Hundred Acre Wood gang come and save him.
Well, I'm curious, now that you're framing it this way, I kind of just took it as Christopher Robin, the book character, like, aside from A.A. Milne's son.
Oh,
so I
that's
wonder
true.
if, like, the author's son meta connection will ever be mentioned, because, like, that is a point of awareness within the book. Like, the author is speaking to his son, but you don't find that as much within the Disney realm. Like, Christopher Robin is just a character. He's not like, oh, my dad wrote this book.
That's true. Okay, so I'm thinking a lot of, when I first saw it, I was kind of thinking it as, oh, this will be a continuation of Goodbye, Christopher Robin, but that wasn't made by Disney, and that was, I think, more biographical, whereas this is definitely more fanatic or fantastical, because Winnie the Pooh is alive and well and comes out of the Hundred Acre Wood. So I'm curious what parallels there are going to be between. I need to do some more research on the actual Christopher Robin, if there are any parallels between his actual life and this character, or like you said, if it's going to be just him as a fictional character, Christopher Robin.
I think it's going to be just an exciting kind of like, refocus yourself type story. Like, as adults, we often forget about our childhood and the things that were easy and made us happy, and kind of like regrounding yourself in that. What are you looking forward to in the movie?
I'm really looking forward to seeing the characters interact with each other in the real world.
Yes.
The trailer's so funny with them, like in cars and things that you just don't have in the Hundred Acre Wood. So that'll be funny, and people freaking out about, like, there's a talking bear.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking forward to, because I feel like that's something we haven't explored within the realm of this Winnie the Pooh, like, Disney
They've
era.
never been outside of that
They've
100 Acre
always
Wood.
been in the 100 Acre Wood. So to bring them into real life and play around with that just seems like a fun new way to explore these characters.
So that also keeps me thinking how they're going to frame Christopher Robin, because if it's a fictional Christopher Robin, like from the book and the book only, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, it's a talking bear. But if it's the Christopher Robin, like Milne Christopher Robin, people might be like, oh, you have a Pooh doll. Oh my God, that Pooh is talking. Like, they might know who Pooh is, but I don't know, because they don't really give you a lot of clues of that in the trailer.
We will have to find out this weekend.
Will.
And I am sure
I'm super excited for it.
Many of our listeners are going to see it this weekend as well. So we hope that this is a nice accompaniment to your exciting Winnie the Pooh activities. This was something we had promised from our very first intro episode, so I'm glad that we made it work out. If you're looking to continue to have some fun with Winnie the Pooh, we've pulled together, as always, just additional resources to point you to. So my two they come from YouTube, because I'm a big fan of free access in addition to my library. On YouTube, I found, as I mentioned, a reference throughout the episode, a video called The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the story behind the masterpiece. And this was produced by Disney as a special feature, has a lot of familiar faces and names talking about the creation of this beloved film and character and drawing from the books. But also, if you're feeling a nostalgia trip, episodes of Welcome to Pooh Corner and the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh are readily available on YouTube as well, if you just need a little stroll down memory lane. What were your resources?
So I have a couple. I've mentioned the film Goodbye, Christopher Robin a few times. I watched it on my plane ride to and from London on my most recent trip this past year, and I cried. It was beautiful, very heartwarming, and very, very close from the research I've done, particularly for this episode and some of my own, that they got a lot of the details right. So if you want to know more about A.A. Milne and how he came to write these books, check out that movie if you want something more Hollywood versus a documentary. If you ever find yourself in the New York area, hit up the public library one. It's free. It's a beautiful building to see, but you can also see the original toys. And then I had a couple, I'm sorry. The biography I mentioned earlier, Anne Thwaite is the biographer for A.A. Milne, again, if you're interested in him. And we both said we want to check out House on Pooh Corner. Just continue reading the original stories.
Perfect. Well, I think that wraps it up for Winnie the Pooh. But I am excited to share that in our next episode, we will have our first author interview. So we're very excited to be chatting with Aaron Wallace. He's the author of a series called The Thinking Fan's Guide. So far, he has Magic Kingdom, which is in its 2nd edition, and Epcot, as well as one on Hocus Pocus. I think we're going to save Hocus Pocus for a Halloween episode because that is my favorite holiday. But we will be joined by Aaron to talk about his books, the theme parks, and all of that. Really looking forward to talking to an author and having someone else join our conversation. So Emily, why don't you give us a little preview of the back of the book?
So I'm reading from the back of the Thinking Fan's Guide to Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom from the 2nd edition. The back of the book says, "This is not the Walt Disney World guidebook for you if you want to run around like a crazy person from dawn to midnight trying to accomplish the superhuman task of seeing everything in the Magic Kingdom. Or if you need a description of every hot dog stand and turkey leg in the park, or if you want a mathematics PhD to guide you through the maze of ticket options. Do yourself a favor. Step beyond the rush here, do that frenzy of most guidebooks to truly appreciate the magic behind the attractions." Aaron Wallace avoids the amphora of prices and menus to explore the heart of the Disney experience. He provides a lighthearted but scholarly look at the history, lore, and literature that informs the designs and storylines of every ride and attraction in the Magic Kingdom. Far from being mere amusements, these attractions provide a complex, multi-layer narrative that can be experienced and appreciated just like a great novel, play, or film. This is a guide for those ready to immerse themselves in the magnificent achievement that is Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. It will fascinate Disney buffs with some sometimes surprising insights it offers to old favorites while offering newcomers to the Disney magic a much richer experience. For the first time, Walt Disney World is appreciated not as a mere theme park, but what Disney's Imagineers always intended it to be, a work of art.
I love it. I'm really excited. I have read this book before, so I'm excited to talk to kind of his process going through this, his unique approach to a guidebook. We're looking forward to that next time.
I love this book as well. You introduced me to it, and I think you told me to read it. Everything stems from my program. That's really where my love of the parks comes from, is mostly from doing my college program. And I think that's when I read it. And that really, it's so true. It's such a good guidebook. Pick up a copy. It's on Amazon.
Aaron Wallace's website.
Aaron Wallace's website.
Search Aaron Wallace Thinking Fan's Guide, readily available there, and I'm sure other book places as well. It might be at your library. Always check. So next time we'll be joined by Aaron and diving into that. In the meantime, you can keep up with us on social media at Book of the Mouse, both on Twitter and Instagram, or email us to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. As always, we're going to plug rating or reviewing us on iTunes or wherever you listen to our podcast. If you want to connect with me, Courtney, on social media, I'm Courtney_Guth on Twitter. That's COURTNEY_GUTH, and Great Guthsby on Instagram. Emily, why don't you give us your social media and then take us out with a little Winnie the Pooh quote?
All right, so listeners, you can find me on both Instagram and Twitter at Emily_McD, so EMILY_MICKDE. Hopefully you'll follow us, and please give us a review, help other listeners find us. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this Winnie the Pooh 100 Acre Wood excursion, and we just want you to always remember that you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think.
Love it. Such a classic. So
it's my favorite.
Until next time, ta-ta for now.
TTFN.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.